Good afternoon, welcome to another James Loves Butter uploaded podcast. Please like and subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it if you could do that for me. Hope you're all well. It's Sunday. Going to go out for some food shortly, but I just thought I'd get this up there as I'll then give it time to upload when I'm out and about. I'm just currently reading a book, I know it's backwards, called The Black Hand, and it's about the bloody rise and redemption of boxer Enriquez. He was a Mexican mob killer within the system, multiple hits under his belt, but it's about his rise and obviously the redemption of his character, and then he started to go on to work with the government and the FBI and give them insights into the Mexican mob, also known as La M. Really interesting, a great book, very detailed, a fiercely intelligent character. He's still in prison. I really recommend that book. I'm currently wearing Gucci Memoir d'une Odeur. It's lovely. I was going to do an unboxing on it actually, but I won't. I'm just showing you. It's such a lovely, I really recommend it. It's a lovely juniper lemony with a few deeper notes within it that sort of changes throughout the day. When you first spray it on, it smells like bloody Absolute vodka, which is nice. Jokes. Welcome anyway. So today's upload and podcast, please like and subscribe, is under the title, My First Day in Prison. First time in prison. So over the years, I've written some stuff just to state that I've not been incarcerated now for probably coming up for 10 years actually, but I did spend some years within the system and in and out of the system. Dear YouTube, I'm not gratifying or glorifying anything of the past or any of those old behaviours or anything like that. I'm using this to be positive and productive and maybe helpful to somebody and to share some stories from a different perspective. Sometimes when I'm sharing some stuff, I might be in character a little bit just so it's more realistic, so to speak. However, it is certainly not my views, thoughts, or perspective that I have today. Long story short. So I'm going to read you something. I'm trying to keep this as short and brief as possible, these uploads. Hopefully soon to be sponsored by Netflix. Coming to a Netflix season series near you. That didn't sound good at all. Anyway, Prison, an introduction. I wrote this and it's about myself, of course. Driving through the Victorian gates for the first time, I was filled with awe and excitement. Had not the infamous Kray brothers resided here at one point? Also, the notorious Charlie Bronson had been transferred here as a result of his famous feet-tickling hostage crisis escapades. The character in the film in which I lived was finally getting his wish. Of course, I knew there was a horrendous detox to come, but I could see past that now. My thirst for knowledge was insatiable, and to now finally experience the so-called underbelly of society had me in its grips. To me, this was no bad thing as others saw it. I embraced it. This was my initiation. I was getting made. I would now become the master connected criminal that I'd always dreamed. The reality was I was a trembling 9-stone heroin addict who was being incarcerated for defrauding one of his family members' bank accounts. I knew the reality of this in my heart, but in my deluded mind, my bravado, I was like John Gotti being remanded after being indicted due to Sammy the Bull Gravano's testimony. The underboss of the Gambino crime family had flipped on his own boss. He was now known as a rat, which ironically was more like the title that I deserved for my current predicament. As soon as I arrived in reception, my ability to recall the information I'd gathered from books, films and previous conversations all started flooding back to me. Unloaded out of the sweatbox and directed into a side door of the prison, I had arrived. I spoke to the prison guards as if they were old adversaries, respectful but not over friendly, as I knew I was being observed by other inmates at all times. I was always good at retaining information, not necessarily numbers and figures, but I didn't miss a trick. Obviously, I was aware of the potential danger I was in as a first timer. I could not be seen as vulnerable. As always, my survival instinct and quick wit always kept me one step ahead. I was always polite and respectful, which always just boiled down to manipulation. But after all, I was a gentleman criminal of the old school, was I not? I knew that within the culture of prison and the streets, people were judged on haircuts and trainers, status symbols, most definitely within the system. As always, I'd managed to maintain or at least cling on to those ridiculous trophies as I now see them. I mean, in comparison to losing your family, ruining your life, and being a hopeless drug addict, the ridiculousness of thinking I was still doing okay because of a £10 haircut and a pair of Nike trainers actually beggars belief. So, I'm trying to keep it in the context of being my first time and what that was like for me, and talking about the attributes and quick wit that I used to navigate and sail through that first day and night actually. So remembering that I was going in with a heroin habit, which meant that I knew there was a detox to come, a rattle, yeah? So it made sense to me that when I was just assessing my environment and everything around me at all times, drawing in the information and environment, and I saw a few guys, and you've got your shotters, your drug dealers, you got your random guys that may have, I don't know, killed his wife and stuff. And then what also you had is the other heroin addicts. And within those heroin addicts, some would have been brought up okay, some were well educated, and some were just a nightmare. And the same for the shotters as well. Some were dragged up and doing it and bullies, and some were nice and educated. So, you know, just a mix of personalities. But I knew that I had to do a detox, and I knew that I was going to have to be up all night and not sleeping for a long time. So it wouldn't pay for me to be in with somebody, toed up, banged up, sharing a cell with somebody that was also going through it, who wasn't going through the same thing. So it makes sense for me to be in with someone that was going through the same thing. That was the quick thinking, the smartness that came to me really quickly within that. That was an awful word, smartness. I met somebody, got talking, and what the prison officers want, they want people to get on. They don't want people kicking off. They want a quiet life. That makes sense, doesn't it? So who was it? I do remember it was a guy, and I got talking to him within the reception. We got talking, because you go from, you know, one room to another, then you have to be strip searched and pull your boxes down, sort your property out. I'd always go in with a lot of stuff because I knew that, I always knew that I was going to get sent down. So when I went and when I got arrested, I was prepared. So I think I'd already called the prison prior to this to find out what I can and can't take. It was always like I was going on. I know this is my first time, but I went so many times. It was almost like I was always going on a little holiday, as my version of going to rehab, I guess. Anyway, I found somebody that I could share a cell with. I was very polite and friendly with the prison officers, and I spoke with them, and then I got them to say, look, hey boss, would it be okay if I go in so-and-so? I said he's my cousin, and he's a bit vulnerable. We'd always pull something like that out of the bag, and then I'd get toed up and banged up with that guy, and then we could sort of do our rattle side by side, which made it easier. You know, when you're not sleeping all night, there's nothing worse than lying there wide awake and your cellmates asleep. But you go through reception, you get like a bedroll with all your stuff in it. You get like a toothbrush, a toothpaste, a deodorant, maybe a couple of shampoos and a towel, all very basic. But all that aside, the most important thing is this. Having been in court, under the courts in the cells, waiting to be shipped out to the prison that you're being sent to, which is usually your local remand jail, is more than anything, you are dying for a cigarette or a roll-up. More than anything. And a cup of coffee, I reckon. Tea or coffee and a roll-up. So the most important thing, once you've received your bits and bobs, you get sent through from reception to the induction wing. Once in the induction wing, and you've sorted out the officer. Back in those times, you'd say screw or gov officers. Say, look, I'm with my cousin, they'll sort out your location, they'll sort that out because they, like I say, they want a quiet life. And then I notice everybody's saying, Gov, when are we getting our smokers packs? When are we getting our smokers packs? Or you might get asked at reception if you want a smokers pack. This has changed, you know, now they get vapes, I think. So the main priority is your smokers pack. Once you get your smokers pack, you get your cell, you get your cellmate, you go up, you get locked behind the door, you have a cigarette, you put a kettle on, you get a tea pack and you'll make a cup of tea and you'll sit down and have a roll up. And that is a temporary bit of release or relief that is needed. If you're not feeling too good as it is anyway, there can also then become some drug-seeking behaviour that comes into play. But the first time you're in the system, you're not sure about what goes on within that system. Just a little insight. Bit difficult off the cuff, that one, because there's so much to go with and I've got so much information and stuff that I'd want to say. Thanks for having me. Please like and subscribe. Hope you have a wonderful afternoon. Take care. James loves butter. Take care.